Welcome to the coldcases.com podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Terry, and I'm here with Lidia Jean Kott, who is doing the Chinatown Sting podcast for Pushkin Industries. It's about these women who were part of mahjong parlors, and they ended up dealing heroin. So Lydia, one of the first things I want to ask you is, why do you feel the Chinatown Sting is such an important story to tell?
Dustin, thank you so much for having. First off, thank you so much for having me
Yeah.
on this show.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you do. I just wanted to say, like, you do such a great job of telling all these stories. That you do with so much empathy, for the people who come on, and
Oh,
that's
thank
really
you.
great.
Thank you.
As to why I think this is such an important story to tell is, I mean, I, as a reporter, love to tell stories about the legal system
Yeah.
and kind of explaining how it works, like kind of getting inside the legal system, and because it's a system that impacts all of us. And I feel like it can seem really opaque and intimidating, and it is all of those things. But I love to tell stories that kind of help illuminate it to people. And the Chinatown Sting was kind of the opportunity to kind of tell a story of a case from the perspectives of many different people who usually you don't hear from talking about the case. So you
Yeah.
hear from defendants, cooperators, the prosecutors. So I think it's a really interesting way to see
And
how a case like this works, like a
yeah, and
many
there
years
was
complicated case.
yeah, and there was a lot of it I listened to it, and it's remarkable how much like detail went into everything. And I was just like blown away by your research and all that kind of stuff, because it was truly fascinating. And the other thing is, like, this deals with, the undercover operations, and it deals with like complex cultural dynamics, and I just wonder, like, what did you see as far as like, or what did you find out as you dug deeper into this, like everything that, if you can come away with something.
Yeah, like what's the takeaway from the story?
Yeah,
You would
yeah,
say.
yeah. I guess.
um, I mean, I would say actually my takeaway, it's maybe not what you're expecting, but I worked on the story, as you maybe picked up on, for like a really long time, over many years, and learned about so many things that I didn't know about, like the history of Chinatowns in the U.S., the history of Manhattan's Chinatown specifically, how cooperation agreements work, how to play mahjong.
Yeah.
I went to a shooting range, and my co-reporter learned how to shoot a gun. So we learned all sorts, like such a wide variety of things. But for me, what I took away from it is the story is kind of centered around three women, a prosecutor, and two defendants, who also were cooperators. And I worked on the story throughout my 30s, and they were kind of in their 30s too at the time. And I feel like I learned so much from them. Like, they all kind of became heroes to me and how they navigated this really difficult situation. So what I took away from it is getting to know them, and I hope that's what listeners take away from it as
Yeah.
well.
And also, I just want to say, as like somebody who, like, my family was in the Little Dixie Mafia, which was a group out of Oklahoma and Arkansas and like all that area. And like we don't see, like, we see our family and friends as like family and friends, as not as criminals. And
Yeah.
so I was like wondering, like, how did you reconcile with, them seeing their friends as like, other than as criminals, or maybe they didn't see them as criminals or something.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting thing, because I don't think they saw the people. I don't think they saw people like in. I don't think they saw them as criminals. Like, if you know someone and you
Right.
love them, you can't really, you don't, you
Yeah.
can think that someone did a bad thing, but you can't see them just as a criminal. And interestingly, that's also what the prosecutor in the case said too. Is she said, these women were never just criminals to me.
Right.
I always saw them as more than that. But a quick side tour into the Dixie Mafia. When did you find out that your family was involved in the Dixie Mafia?
Well, I've talked to my cousin who I can't. There's still people in it that I can't really reveal anything. Like I have a cousin in witness protection,
Oh wow.
and like there's like a lot of stuff in our family that is known, but I didn't really understand that there was a name to what they were a part of until like many years later. Like I'm now 40, and like I talked to my cousin, and we just share these stories. Like there's a person in our family who stole a truckload of John Deere tractors and stuff, and the FBI was investigating them and stuff. And like we've known these stories, but we can't really like. I'm probably saying too much already,
Oh,
you know?
I don't want to push it. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
what's the racket? But I don't want to get, I don't want to get
but
anyone in trouble.
but I talked to my cousin, and that's how, like a lot of this comes out as you get older. Like your family lore comes out as you get older,
Yes.
so
Yes, and this podcast is also family lore from the other side. It's the family lore of
yeah.
the prosecutor. But if you ever, it sounds like you could do a really great podcast if you
Oh
could
yeah.
ever get permission to tell
Yeah.
those stories.
um the other thing I was going to ask you is so these women, they had these friends, and they had to tell on them basically. And how do you think they went through that betrayal? Like what were their what did they think about those betrayals and stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's really at the center of the story because in a way the prosecutor was able to build the case from based on people's betrayals.
Yeah.
She needed people to betray the people that they cared about in order to make her way to the top. Um, and it's just such a complicated question, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I-
mean, would you be like, I mean, it's something I was thinking a lot. You can't help but think about it. Like, who would you betray if you were
yeah.
facing decades in prison? Like, how would you make
Exactly.
that decision? How do you do the calculus? What's morally right? What's morally wrong? How do you choose between being there for your kid versus not turning on your friend? Like, um, how do you take into account that maybe if you flip, then the other person can flip, so then they'll be okay. But like, what if you? It's like such a. I don't know how you. It's
Yeah.
so hard to weigh that
Yeah, I
ethics.
know
I don't
that
know what I
it's
would
like the
do.
human experience is like so hard when it comes to these things, because it's just like what we were talking about earlier. Like you don't want to betray the people who are closest to you. So I think it was really interesting, like how they, in the podcast, they were talking about, how they felt about this. And this podcast really puts in the human perspective as far as this, I identify with a lot of what these ladies were talking about, based on my experience. And this podcast is remarkable, so
That's
I
so
mean,
nice.
yeah. And so one of the last questions I wanted to ask you was, if listeners could take away one lesson from this, what would it be?
I think what I tried to show in the podcast is that this is actually kind of well, I guess there's two. Can I do two lessons?
Yes, yes, of course.
Well, one lesson that I thought was really interesting is that we kind of think of people who are doing the law, like cops and prosecutors, as people who like are really tough on crime, and they have to be tough on crime, right? Like being really strict, etc.
Yeah,
But what I learned from talking to this prosecutor is she definitely had that. Like she was harsh in ways that like I personally cannot imagine ever being harsh. Um, but she also had a lot of empathy for the people that she was prosecuting, and I think that actually helped her do a better job as a prosecutor. Like I hadn't really thought of how much empathy is actually important, not just because we should all have empathy for each other, but also to literally keep people, our communities safe. Like it's an important aspect of doing the law. So that's one thing that I didn't really know before.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it makes you a more effective prosecutor.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you for your time, Lydia, and I look forward to everything you do. It's truly like I'm a fan, you know.
Aw. Well,
So,
I can't wait for your Dixie podcast. And
yeah,
if you need any early listeners or edits,
yeah.
I would be thrilled to listen to
Thank
it.
you.